I'm excited to talk to you today, but I want to start. How did you get into the reality TV production world? How did that happen?
Cool. So I was an actor as a kid, and then started. I was living in a van and traveling, doing a sword fighting show at Renaissance fairs, and my sword fighting partner and I started making documentaries on sword swallowers, jugglers, full contact jousters. We did a little documentary on our show, which was a sword fighting show with kids. And then in 1998, we decided to start transitioning off the road. And my business partner at the time had was a former music executive. So we started reaching out and seeing if we couldn't use some of his music contacts to get into the television business. And we were able to use some of his contacts, some of my contacts. And before you know it, we were shooting documentaries, we were shooting music-based projects, we were shooting music videos, EPKs. And then we started a small production company in Toluca Lake, California in 1999. And by 2002, we had a full-blown company and we were producing television. So it was sort of through that I ended up making TV. And that's sort of the short version of it. And then I got out of television for a couple of years. My daughter was born in 2003, and it was really difficult for me to be on the road. So I went back into another business that I have a lot of background in, which is construction management. And I spent 3 years back in construction management. And I found that those skills were very similar to my production skills because it's just about having a budget and a timeline and a project to work on, and you just get it done. And then when my daughter turned 3, I went back on the road and have been sort of on the road and making TV since.
Amazing. That's like such a great journey. And I love when a journey starts as a theater kid because I was also a theater kid. So
Me too. Yeah, I did a little background on you and I noticed that as well. So
could you tell?
I figured we'd have that in common.
I love it. So you kind of explained a little bit, but can you kind of elaborate more on what exactly you do as a producer? Because I know that's something people get confused about.
They do. And so, as a showrunner, my job is I'm in charge of I'm kind of the CEO of the show. That's my job, is to be over top of all departments. But then once I've hired the right people and we're up and running, then my focus has to narrow down to story and really making sure that we're getting the best possible version of the story that we're there to cover. And so for me, that means just being on top of keeping that 10,000 foot view of what's going on and making sure my story team, my producers are asking the right questions and that my director is getting the right shots and that we're giving our post-production team the best possible chance of making a really good episode. So I'm not sure if that answers it specifically, but that's once the logistics are up and running and my EIC or my line producer has that handled, then we really start transitioning into the story land because that's what the show's really about. It's not about the grips or the electrics, God bless them all. And, it's not about what we eat for lunch. It's about what we're going to eventually put on television. And, our goal is always to give post the best shot at making the best show. And I think we did a good job this time around.
Nice.
And then I stay on through post-production as well and, and manage the edit. And I'm watching cuts and, we're crafting the story so that, again, what hits the TV is the best version of what we can do.
I was going to add that because I know there's so many aspects of producing. So it was nice to hear your, this is what I do because it's so multifaceted.
Yeah. That there are. And, that executive producer role can be many things, right? It can be the guy that finances it. It could be the guy that, knows somebody who gets it, an executive producer credit. It can be, an executive who's really not involved in the show. But for us, it's really important that, our role as showrunner is really defined, and we do just that. We run the show.
Awesome. So I looked at your IMDb page and I noticed you were a producer on one of my favorite short-lived series, A Thousand Ways to Die.
My favorite, if I could go back, if someone said, hey, we're going to reboot Thousand Ways, would you do it? There would be zero hesitation on my part to go do that show again. I loved A Thousand Ways to Die because it was like making 2 B movies every single day. And that production schedule was mad. We would shoot two deaths essentially every single day. And we do that 4 days a week. And we did that for several years in a row. That show was so much fun. I got to set people on fire, blow things up, gallons of blood, stunt performers, crash cars. It was just an absolute riot. We make that show for adolescents, and that's kind of like the vibe. And like I said, I love Thousand Ways to Die. I'm glad you do too, because that was one of the thrills of my producing career, was making Thousand Ways to Die, and I would go back and do it in a heartbeat.
I love it, because I was going to ask you what your favorite show to produce was.
Gordon's going to kill me. Next Level Chef is probably number 1 for me right now, just because I love that show, and we were so close to the creation of that show, and it's such a fun show to make. And for cooking shows, it is I think we found a really fun way to take a really tired format and make it interesting. And I think it's probably in my opinion, it is the most interesting cooking show out there. So right now that's like number 1. I love doing Kitchen Nightmares. It was an absolute beast, but it was so fun to work with Gordon on that intimate level. It's not Gordon on a shiny floor. And it's not Chef Ramsey. It's just a guy named Gordon who knocks on a front door, walks into your restaurant, and tries to help you out. So I would say, Next Level Chef, and then Thousand Ways to Die, number 1 and 2. And then Kitchen Nightmares.
Of course.
Tied with first or second.
It's the best one, because that's the one that's coming back. And it's coming back
after. That is the one that's coming back.
Like almost a decade, right?
Yeah, almost a decade, almost 10 years.
That's crazy. So why now?
Great question. And that's a question we had to ask ourselves. And for Gordon, I think it was seeing the world post-pandemic, realizing how hard the restaurant industry got hit, harder than I think any other industry. And it's the one industry I think that has changed the most since COVID. People's dining habits have changed dramatically since then. Social media didn't exist really 10 years ago when this show came about. So, most people under 30 won't walk into a restaurant unless they check their Yelp reviews or their Instagram handle or see if they're on TikTok. Delivery apps have changed the game considerably. And Gordon wasn't immune to any of this. Gordon's got 75 restaurants around the world, and they all took a hit. So for him, it was about getting back in the game now to see if he could throw a lifeline to those restaurants that made it through the pandemic. And then also to help some of those restaurants that have started since then to navigate this new world order that we're in when it comes to the restaurant biz. And also, I think Gordon realized too that a lot of those lessons that were beat into people's heads over the last 10 years have been forgotten, or just those practices of, we had an unofficial motto on the show, which was customers shouldn't have to pay for shitty food. And that really is what Gordon feels. He realizes it is a privilege to feed people for money. And it really makes him righteously angry when he walks into a restaurant and he sees restaurant owners and staff taking advantage of their customers by giving them subpar food and charging them to do it. So I think all those things definitely played into the reason why this show is back. And it has enduring popularity. I mean, you can't ask for, I think, a more popular series than Kitchen Nightmares. You can still watch it every single day if you want on your TV. So I think that enduring popularity of the show certainly helps as well.
Absolutely. Especially, it's always nice to see Gordon Ramsay. I mean, we love watching him cuss people out. That's like super fun. But it's nice to see the softer side of him too. Like when he really cares, because he seems like a genuine person, and that it seems like he really does care.
He does care. He cares so much about these restaurants and the people in them. I mean, in the premiere episode, did you see the premiere episode? Did you get to see Bel Air Diner? So, I mean, within minutes of Gordon coming into the restaurant and sitting down, he has grown men in tears because he really does care and he really does want to help. And people see that in his face, you know. There's the vision of and the version of Gordon Ramsay that is the guy on TV. But when he literally walks into your restaurant and you call him Gordon, not Chef Ramsay, and he sits down with you and he really cares about what's going on in your restaurant and why it's not working, it affects people in a way that is remarkable. You know, they say don't meet your heroes, and I don't think that's ever been the case with Gordon Ramsay.
That's beautiful to know, like, because it's always, and lately especially, I feel like dirty things come into light with people's favorites, and that is exactly what you just said, don't meet your heroes. So it's always refreshing to hear this person is legitimate. This person is who they say they are. It's so important right now.
It is. I can't agree with you more. And I think that's Gordon in a nutshell. What you see is definitely what you get. And he's also just so incredibly gracious behind the camera too. I mean, the way that he is conscious of how crews should be treated. You know, his high standard for food is equally high when it comes to television production. And that's super important for us to keep that level of production as high as possible. It's super important to us.
That makes sense. So what else can we look forward to? You gave some snippets, but what else can we look forward to this season?
This is the everything I think that America loves about kitchen nightmares, which are clueless owners, egotistical, off the handle chefs, lazy staff, terrible food, disgusting kitchens, and then remarkable and life-changing transformations of not only people but their business. And I think you're also going to see Gordon tackle some really real-world problems that are very much what's going on now. Mental health in the restaurant industry is so important to Gordon, and it's not something we shy away from. It's not something he shies away from in his restaurant group. He has a specific mental health program for his restaurant group so that if you're not feeling it, he's got ways to help you. And Gordon really brought that with him in this. And, there are definitely, there's a huge mental strain on people in this business, and Gordon is not afraid to talk about it. He's not afraid to embrace that, and he's not afraid to try to get people the help that they need. And I think that's something that I think you're going to see this go around that is, that I think will resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, we love a good focus on mental health because it's
absolutely
after the pandemic, it's so important.
Yeah. And especially in the restaurant industry where it's so high pressure and you're in such close quarters and you're often working with family and you're working, in a high pressure environment. It's one of the things that we wanted to put a focus on it. And, we definitely found people who needed the help, and I'm hoping they got it.
Amazing. Well, I'm hoping. I know just from hearing everything you're describing, I'm probably going to be crying when I watch it on September 25th.
Yes, September 25th, we air our very first episode, which is Bel Air Diner. It is a family-run 24-hour diner in Queens, New York. It has been a staple in the neighborhood for almost 40 years, and it is now run by two brothers who just are absolutely at war with each other. And that just comes from being kids who grew up together and working with your older brother and feeling like you're, not respected or valued in the restaurant. And Gordon has to work hard to get these two brothers back on the same page and also get their parents to step away. These are 40-year-old men who are definitely ready to run this restaurant. and having mom and dad there undermining their every move is something that Gordon had to deal with as well. So that's one. I think in episode 2, Basque 46, we have a chef who calls himself the culinary gangster. And I think you'll find that to be a very funny episode, and an episode where, like you said, you love to watch Gordon chew people out, but he does it. I think people love it because it's righteous indignation, right? It's everything that you want to say, and Gordon gets to say it. And I think that's the one thing that people love. And of course, we've got some absolutely disgusting kitchens and some things that should never be in a refrigerator that are in a refrigerator. I think the meat refrigerator in the Bel Air diner goes down in history as as definitely one of the, if there's a hall of shame of kitchen nightmares, it's definitely going to be a first round ballot inductee for sure. And it's not the only one we find. So there's something, I think, for everyone. And we also have an incredible variety of restaurants. And I think that's one of the reasons that we picked the area that we picked, was we knew we could get a variety of restaurants that were reflective of the country as well. I think everyone in all corners of the country will identify with not only the types of restaurants, but the people as well. And I think it'll resonate for sure.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to watch. David, it's been so amazing being able to talk to you from one former kid to another.
Yeah, indeed.
Of course. Kitchen Nightmares again, September 25th. Looking forward to
September 25th.
Amazing.
We're coming.
Thank you, David.
Thank you as well. I really appreciate it.